Hello, I'm Stephanie Martinez, and here are some of the headlines we bring you today. Yaoundé regime cancels municipal debts in the southern Cameroon municipalities. Paul Biya attends the China-Africa Summit. The OIC ends a two-day conference in Cameroon. Bernard O'Cauley employs MPs, chiefs, and other elected officials to threaten Ambazonia restoration fighters. And soldiers invade a school compound and take up residents. These stories and much more right now on ABS News. Paul Biya's government has canceled 75% of the municipal debts of 62 councils or local governments in the conflict-ridden Ambazonia. This move is aimed at alleviating the financial pressure caused by ongoing security challenges in the country. Now, John Johnson reports.
The cancellation of 75% of municipal debts in the English regions took place following a meeting of the Special Fund for Equipment and Intermunicipal Intervention, FECIM. This meeting occurred on August 31st in Lemba. The decision was made in response to the ongoing economic difficulties faced by the 62 municipalities, areas heavily affected by the ongoing conflict, which has resulted in security instability since 2016. Philippe Camille Lacoa, the general manager of FECIM, led the proposal to cancel part of the debts, which amounted to approximately 4 billion CFA francs. The rationale for this debt relief was explained primarily on the economic slowdown and deterioration of municipal infrastructure due to the conflict in the municipalities. The debt relief is intended to reduce the financial burden on local councils that have been struggling with increased operating costs amidst declining revenues caused by the conflict.
Cameroon's president and son, Paul and Frank Biya, are both in Beijing for the 9th China-Africa Forum, which focuses on strengthening economic cooperation, especially in green technology and infrastructure. Ben Williams has the report.
The 9th China-Africa Forum, FOCAC, took place from September 4th to 6th in Beijing. It was a significant event that sought to strengthen cooperation between China and African nations, focusing on infrastructure, green technology, and economic collaboration. The forum marked a key moment for African nations to advance their partnerships with China, with the Chinese government pledging $50 billion in financial aid aimed at fostering development across the continent. Cameroonian President Paul Biya and son, Frank Biya, led Cameroon's delegation, signaling the importance Cameroon places on its long-standing relationship with China. Accompanying Biya were key ministers, such as Alamine Ousmane May, Minister of Economy, John Ernest Ngala Bebehe, Transport, Fou Callistus Gentry, Mines and Technological Development, and other high-ranking officials in sectors critical to Cameroon's development. The delegation's composition highlights the focus on trade, infrastructure, and economic recovery. The primary objective of the conference was to reinforce China's position as Africa's top trade partner, while also promoting sustainable development initiatives. Specific emphasis was placed on green technologies, infrastructure development, digital economy expansion, and economic cooperation between China and Africa. For Cameroon, this forum was an opportunity to negotiate new agreements that would help address both the country's economic challenges and the security challenges in the conflict-ridden Ambazonia. For Cameroon, discussions likely focused on infrastructure projects and debt restructuring, areas that have been prominent in previous China-Africa engagements. This partnership has been fruitful, with past collaborations, including the construction of critical infrastructure such as hospitals, the Yaoundé Sports Palace, and the Kribi Deepwater Port.
The Organization of Islamic Cooperation, or OIC, recently concluded its 50th Council of Foreign Ministers meeting, held in Yaoundé, Cameroon, on August 29th through 30th. This high-profile gathering brought together over 500 delegates, including foreign ministers and senior diplomats from the 57 member states, to address the pressuring challenges facing the Muslim world. Key topics included tackling violent extremism, economic difficulties, and climate change, which have severely impacted member countries such as Burkina Faso, Mali, Syria, and Nigeria. This report now.
One of the most significant outcomes of the meeting was the announcement of a groundbreaking transcontinental infrastructure project, a 4,000-kilometer railway intended to link Senegal to Sudan. This railway aims to enhance market access and connectivity between Africa and Asia, particularly through the Atlantic Ocean and the Red Sea. The project is seen as a critical component in the fight against poverty and insecurity by improving trade routes and creating economic opportunities. Beyond economic initiatives, the OIC also reaffirmed its commitment to addressing ongoing regional conflicts, including in Palestine, Afghanistan, and Sudan. It announced plans for a donors' conference later in 2024 to assist refugees fleeing terrorism in Cameroon, Chad, and Nigeria. Additionally, reforestation efforts and road construction projects were pledged for the Sahel region, aimed at combating desertification and fostering regional development. This session, chaired by Cameroon, showcased the OIC's broader mission to foster peace, development, and stability in the Muslim world.
Governor Bernard O'Connell of Boya, Southern Cameroon, has made a controversial call to local MPs and mayors, along with councilors, urging them to take an aggressive stance against Ambazonia fighters. In a meeting held on September 4th, addressing the ongoing Ambazonia conflict, the governor suggested that officials should threaten the fighters by reminding them that the government knows their family. Here is the latest.
If you cannot face them, they will deal with you. But if you tell them that we know you, we know your family members, they will feel threatened. O'Connell told the meeting. His remarks were made in the context of the ongoing struggle to resume normal life, particularly getting children back to school, which has been severely disrupted by the ongoing conflict. Bernard O'Connell's message is part of a larger effort by the Cameroonian government to curb the influence of separatists, who have imposed a school boycott in protest of the government. The governor emphasized that these fighters have jeopardized the future of children in the region by enforcing school closures, and he stressed the need for immediate action. His suggestion to use threats about fighters' families highlights the increasing desperation of local officials to restore order and educational services amid the escalating violence. The governor's approach, however, risks exacerbating tensions, as it could provoke further violence from the separatists, who have already shown significant resistance to government initiatives in the region. Many schools remain closed due to fear of attacks from armed groups, and the population continues to suffer from the long-standing Anglophone crisis, which has displaced thousands and caused widespread insecurity. Governor Bailey's statement comes amid a broader debate about how best to address the conflict, with some advocating for dialogue and others purporting more forceful measures. His remarks are likely to intensify discussions on the government's handling of the crisis, as local and international observers have called for a more nuanced and humanitarian approach to resolving the conflict.
Cameroon soldiers invaded the premises of a Presbyterian church in Aziri Bamenda on August 31st, escalating tensions in the conflict-ridden region. The soldiers arrived unannounced, carrying mattresses and began occupying 2 classrooms of the school housed within the church compound. They reportedly demanded the keys to additional classrooms, but the Reverend pastor they met said he did not have them. This report now.
The incident underscores the military's role in disrupting educational activities in the region. This development has drawn sharp criticism from church leaders and the local community, particularly because it comes at a time when the Cameroonian government is attempting to shift the narrative, claiming that separatist Amba fighters are solely responsible for preventing children from attending school. The presence of soldiers in school facilities contradicts this narrative, as it adds another layer of complexity to the educational disruptions caused by the ongoing conflict. The Presbyterian Church, known for advocating peace in the region, condemned the invasion, emphasizing that religious spaces, including schools, should remain neutral and untouched by military operations. Observers fear that the military's occupation of the school could exacerbate tensions between the population and government forces, undermining any efforts toward the resumption of schools in the area. Human rights organizations have called for an end to such tactics, urging both sides to respect civilian infrastructure and prioritize dialogue to resolve the crisis.
In Kenya, a devastating fire erupted early on the morning of September 6 at Hillside Indarasha Academy, a boarding school in Nyeri County, central Kenya. The blaze, which swept through a dormitory while students were sleeping, claimed the lives of 17 children and left 13 others seriously injured. The fire began around 2 a.m., catching the victims off guard and quickly reducing the dormitory to ashes. Authorities are still investigating the cause of the fire, though there are fears that it may have been caused by arson. Rescue operations are ongoing, and officials have warned that the death toll could rise as the situation remains critical. Over 70 children remain unaccounted for as rescue teams sift through the debris. A severe mpox outbreak in South Kivu, Democratic Republic of Congo, or DRC, has led to an escalating health crisis, overwhelming medical facilities across the region. As of early September, health authorities have reported over 800 confirmed cases, with at least 8 fatalities, all of whom were children under the age of 5. The outbreak, primarily affecting vulnerable populations in rural areas, has placed a significant strain on already fragile healthcare systems, which are struggling to respond to the surge of infections. William Taw reports. We now take you to the conflict in the Middle East, where tensions remain at a boiling point as Israeli airstrikes intensify in Gaza, claiming at least 60 lives within the past 24 hours. The airstrikes are part of Israel's ongoing military campaign following the October 7th Hamas attacks. While Hamas has accused Israel of deliberately obstructing ceasefire negotiations, Israeli officials maintain that their operations are essential for dismantling Hamas military infrastructure. Humanitarian concerns are mounting as casualties rise, particularly among civilians, amidst reports of blocked aid, routes, and widespread displacement within Gaza. Calls for international intervention grow louder, but ceasefire talks remain deadlocked. The UK government has halted some arms exports to Israel, citing concerns over potential violations of international humanitarian law. Israeli leaders have condemned the decision as misguided and hypocritical, arguing it embodies Hamas while weakening the international support. In a compelling ABS special news feature, Chris Anu sheds light on the crumbling road infrastructure plaguing southern Cameroons. He lays the blame squarely on the Republic of Cameroon, arguing that this blatant neglect of basic needs is not just an oversight, but a calculated form of oppression. According to Anu, this disregard for the region's development serves as an undeniable proof that Ambazonians are justified in their relentless pursuit of independence. For him, it is not merely a question of bad roads, it is a question of dignity, survival, and the right to self-determination.
The road infrastructure across the southern Cameroon's Ambazonia this rainy season has reached a state of near collapse, leaving thousands of inhabitants in dire conditions. A recent case that underscores the broader infrastructure crisis is the collapse of the Libielem-Chang access road. It got severed into two recently due to heavy rains and floods. This vital route, which serves as the only link between Libielem and the rest of Ambazonia, plus La République du Cameroon, has been rendered impassable, stranding residents and cutting off access to essential services and, of course, economic activity. As the government of La République du Cameroon continues its historical neglect of this region, inhabitants of Libielem, without assistance, took it upon themselves to attempt repairs on the stretch of road. The community-led efforts serve as a desperate measure to reconnect the area, despite lacking the technical expertise and resources typically required for such a task. But Libielem's isolation is not an isolated incident, nor does it stem purely from natural causes. The region is not linked by a road to its neighboring Manu County, despite the two areas being less than 25 minutes apart. Less than 25 minutes. This absence of direct routes connecting Ambazonian communities is no accident. Rather, it is seen by many as a deliberate policy by the colonial government of La République du Cameroon. For decades, Ambazonian communities have been forced to travel through francophone towns to access their own neighboring areas within the southern Cameroons. This detour not only imposes additional economic burdens on travelers, but also serves to further entrench a sense of isolation, disenfranchisement, and marginalization of Amazonian populations. Libielem's current road crisis is a stark example of what many refer to as La République du Cameroon's deliberate policy of underdevelopment in all of the southern Cameroon's Ambazonia since unification. The people of this county, who have long suffered from inadequate infrastructure, are now forced to confront the reality that their so-called government is incapable to invest in basic amenities such as roads. Instead of facilitating movement between Ambazonian towns, La République du Cameroon policy maintains a system of indirect routes that funnel all traffic through francophone areas, a method some argue is intended to subjugate the region and suppress any attempts at autonomy. The Libielem Road collapse is just one piece of a larger, deeply entrenched infrastructural crisis that has gripped the entirety of Ambazonia since unification. For years, roads connecting major towns and cities were left in various states of decay, with minimal or no government intervention. The Kumbalum Road, which passes through critical towns like Tombe and the Bakosi lands, is in a similar state of disrepair. This road, vital for trade and transport in the region, remains largely impassable due to erosion, lack of maintenance, or neglect. Another significant example is the Kumbo in Kambe Road, which, like many other roads in the region or in Ambazonia, is crucial for connecting communities but has been left to deteriorate. Bamenda Wum Road, Njikwa, Ngi, Kumba, Indian Road, and others suffer the same fate, where potholes, landslides, and washout bridges have rendered these roads dangerous and unreliable for regular travel. Perhaps the most damning example of this neglect is the road leading to Bamenda, the third largest city in the country Cameroon wants us to believe is one and indivisible. For years, the access road to this critical city of Bamenda was virtually non-existent, turning what should be a smooth drive into a grueling and hazardous journey. Bamenda, despite its economic and historical significance, has been repeatedly overlooked when it came to road infrastructural development, deepening the frustrations of the Ambazonian population of this region. If a city of such magnitude and importance can be neglected for so long, what hope do smaller, more isolated communities like the BLM have? The dilapidated state of road infrastructure in Ambazonia is not just a matter of inconvenience. It has far-reaching social and economic implications. Roads are the arteries of any economy, essential for the movement of goods, people, and services. In the southern Cameroon's Ambazonia, the absence of reliable roads has strangled local economies, making it nearly impossible for farmers to transport their produce to markets, or for businesses to operate efficiently. Moreover, the isolation created by these poor roads has cut off access to vital services such as healthcare and education. In many parts of Ambazonia, community hospitals or health centers are few and far between, and the ones that do exist are typically understaffed and under-equipped. Shockingly, it is often the communities, the same communities themselves, that bear the burden of staffing these facilities, sometimes even paying the salaries of doctors and nurses. The same holds true for schools. In many municipalities, when the government decrees the establishment of a school, it is the parents who must come together to move bricks, build classrooms, and even hire and pay teachers. This reality paints a damning picture of the so-called unification between the Southern Cameroons and La République du Cameroon. For a region that contributes an estimated 82% of Cameroon's GDP, largely through its natural resources, what does it have to show for decades of union with La République du Cameroon? The overwhelming evidence suggests little to nothing. For the people of Ambazonia, the state of their roads and the broader infrastructure crisis represent just one aspect of a larger pattern of neglect and disenfranchisement by La République du Cameroon. With no roads, no government-built schools or hospitals, and a continued policy of marginalization, it is no wonder that the calls for separation and independence only grow louder each year, and for 8 good years. As community members take on the responsibility of repairing roads, building schools, and staffing hospitals, one must affirm that the La République du Cameroon government since effectively abandoned its duties to these regions or to all of Ambazonia. So the question is, what justification remains for maintaining the union? The Ambazonian people have long argued that their push for independence is not just about political autonomy, but about the right to self-determination and dignity, an opportunity to take control of their own affairs and provide the services that their government has failed to deliver, or the government of La République du Cameroon has failed to deliver for over 60 years. For many, the dilapidated state of the Lebialem Chang Road, the Kumba Lum Road, and the Kumbo Nkambe Road, among others, stands as a symbol of everything that has gone wrong in the union between the Southern Cameroons and La République du Cameroon. Our roads, our schools and hospitals were better. They were better before we met La République du Cameroon. Remember the days of PWD? The Ambazonian struggle for independence is rooted in the belief that true progress and development can only come through separation from a government or a country that has systematically underdeveloped our own part of the country. If the crumbling roads, abandoned schools, and neglected hospitals are not reason enough to justify Ambazonia's fight for independence, then it's hard to imagine what else could motivate them.
We thank you for watching this broadcast on ABS News. For all the latest developments on these stories and more, we invite you to continue watching ABS News and visit our website, absafricatv.com. We thank you for watching. I'm Stephanie Martinez.